Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It's Mulatto Activist. So today I wanted to go over this video that I saw from Ricardo Ignacio, and I've covered this gentleman in the past. And I think it's important to point out at the outset that this gentleman has an agenda. He is not somebody who can be taken seriously, he is not somebody who can be trusted, and he is not somebody who has any real sympathy for the plight of mixed race people here in the United States, where we're essentially without any real community to inherit for ourselves. He doesn't care about that at all. He doesn't care about the plight of mulattoes. He doesn't care about the plight of Wasians or Blasians or anybody for that fact. He only cares about coddling the feelings of Black Americans. That's it. And so he is essentially a mascot for Black Americans. I would really say Black women. That's his whole agenda. He seems to be very pro-Black women. You know, he'll criticize every other group. He'll even criticize Black men, but he will not criticize Black women ever. You will never hear this guy say anything negative about Black women. But of course, he'll criticize Dominicans. He'll criticize mulattoes. Oh, all day. He'll criticize white people all day. But he'll never say anything bad about Black women. So it's important to understand that this guy has an agenda. He has a bias. And I said this in my last video where I was talking about the gentleman, but apparently he was dating a Black girl. You know, he used to have a Black girlfriend, and then apparently his girlfriend's brother was killed by a Mexican, and then his girlfriend then hated him from that point forward because he is Mexican. So that kind of ethnic hostility bled into the relationship, and it caused some kind of falling out. But he obviously has an attachment towards Black women, okay? He has an attachment towards Black women. He has a lot of sympathy for their struggle, and that's fine. I respect that. But the problem is he wants to attack mulattoes in the process, and that's something I can't allow to go unpunished, for lack of better words. I have to respond. I have to stand up for my people. I made myself a representative for my people, and so because of that, it's my obligation to defend them. So like I said, it is important to understand this gentleman is biased. He has an agenda. He's a one-dropper. Very important to recognize that he's a one-dropper. If you have any discernible features, he will tell you you're Black. And I find this very interesting because the gentleman here is a mestizo. So he has European and indigenous ancestry. But if somebody were to come up to him and say, hey, Ricardo, you're just indigenous, or you're just European, he would say, no, I'm mestizo. So Mexicans are allowed to stand up for their own identity, and there's no issue. Mexicans can say, I'm mestizo. I'm a mixture of European and indigenous. And nobody bats an eye. Nobody has anything negative to say. But God forbid a mulatto stands up and says, I'm not Black, I'm mulatto. Oh, all of a sudden you're anti-Black, you hate Black people, you're a white supremacist, you're centering whiteness, you want proximity to whiteness. All of a sudden all these gaslighting tactics come out. But why is that logic never applied to the mestizos? A mestizo doesn't have to do this whole performance, all this apologizing. A mestizo doesn't have to be like, no, I'm not indigenous, I'm mestizo. But they're not accused of seeking proximity to their whiteness or centering whiteness. It's only us. So there is this insane double standard that is not applied to Mexicans or any Hispanics for that matter who are mestizo. It is only applied to mulattoes. Anybody mixed with Black is held to this special standard. If you're mixed with Asian and white, you can just say I'm Asian and nobody accuses you of trying to distance yourself from your Asianness. You can be indigenous and European. Nobody will accuse you of trying to distance yourself from your indigenous ancestry. You can be any mixture that is not mixed with Black. and you won't be accused of having any kind of ill intent, any kind of malicious intent. But of course, if you are mixed with black, if you're black and Asian, black and white, especially black and white, if you're a mulatto in general, and you say, I'm not black, I'm mulatto, now all of a sudden all these kinds of accusations come out. So it's very curious how these kinds of rhetorical tricks are used selectively only on people mixed with black, but nobody else. No other people who are mixed with anything that's not black ever has to deal with these kind of accusations. It's only us. And what that tells you is there is an agenda to fold us back into the black American category, to corral us in. And of course, it's political. It's so the black community retains their political control over mixed race people, so that we can maintain black America's voting power. We're not supposed to have our own destiny. Our destiny is to serve them politically. And we all know about the 1990s and the multiracial movement and the National Urban League and the NAACP, various other civil rights organizations. They opposed it for the exact same reasons, because they think anybody who is mixed with black is black and thus has to serve the black community. We can't have our own destiny. And I'm writing about this in the Mulatto Manifesto that's going to come out pretty soon here. But we are essentially only given three options. Option A is be an individual. Option B is assimilate into the black community. And option C is abolish race altogether. Those are the three options that we essentially have as mulattoes. But the idea of forming your own category, forming your own group based on your lineage and having an identity, mulatto, that ties you together to people like you with your shared experience and a larger history, and saying that's my inheritance, claiming that is totally off limits. No, if you do that, you're anti-black, you're horrible, you hate black people. So let's get something cleared up. This gentleman does not care about mixed race individuals at all. He doesn't care about our plight. He doesn't care about our people. He doesn't care about how we suffer. He doesn't care about how we get used for political purposes. He doesn't give a fuck about how racism, mono-racism towards us is totally normalized. He'll never speak out against that. As a matter of fact, he'll condone it and defend it. So this guy is just another one of these shady one-droppers. And let's be honest about something. Let's stop lying to ourselves. The girl down here, she doesn't look black. She does look mixed. And the thing that's so funny to me is that when people say the average African American, you can have 30 to 40% European admixture and be an African American, those are extreme outliers, okay? Those are extreme outliers. The vast majority, it's going to be anywhere between 90 to 70% sub-Saharan African. That's just the truth, okay? 90 to 70% or 70 to 90% sub-Saharan African. Most African Americans have that amount of sub-Saharan African in their DNA. And then something else, mixed in. But the overwhelming majority is black. Okay? So let me ask you this, Ricardo. Does the lady here look like she has 70 to 90% sub-Saharan African in her DNA? I can tell you right now, no. She looks to me to be triracial, African, indigenous, and European. A heavy amount of admixture, like myself. So if I were to go to any African nation where they don't have the one-drop rule, which is logical, if I were to go to any African nation, I would be classified as something else. I'd be classified as colored or whatever other multiracial category they have in Africa. It's only in this delusional backwards country where they say, hey, anybody who has any discernible African features, you're just black. No, that's not right. That's not how that works. How is it that somebody with 45% African DNA and 55% non-African DNA gets one dropped into being black? It's not logical. And of course, the only reason this happens is because there is a political agenda, and there was a system of white supremacy that was forced onto the black community, which normalized the one-drop rule to maintain the purity of the white race. And to this day, he's still upholding that. Why? Because he's interested in pushing a pro-black woman agenda. Very simple what the gentleman here is trying to accomplish. He does not have our best interests at heart at all. He hates us. He is against us. He doesn't like mulattoes. He hates the word. So this gentleman here, and by the way, he's a Mexican. What is it with these Mexicans? No disrespect, but it's like, why can't you just worry about Mexican business? Why you gotta be all up in mulatto business and black people's business? Very curious. But anyways, this is the thing. All of this ridiculous gaslighting that goes on, they say, oh, you're just black. Let's be real. In America, there is no such thing as racially black. That's not a thing. That's fake. Because they'll take a quadroon who's 75% European, 80% European even, and say he's black because he has 20 to 25% sub-Saharan African in his DNA. But he's overwhelmingly European. They'll say that guy's black. And they might not look alike at all. They might look like two completely different races of people. So there is no such thing as black in America. That's a fake thing. What America has is it has an African American ethno-cultural, it's an ethno-cultural group. African American is an ethno-cultural group. It isn't a race. There is no black race. That's not how black is applied in America. It is an ethno-cultural group. And in an ethno-cultural group, yeah, you can lump in a lot of people because ethnicity is more based on kinship and culture as opposed to strict racial lines. So they kind of like to play around with the definition of black. When I think about black, I'm thinking about biology. I'm thinking about race. When he says black, he's thinking about ethnicity. So there's that kind of division there. I don't look at black as a ethnicity. I understand it as being a race. African American is an ethnicity, but black is a race. That's how I look at it. So I don't consider myself black, and I sure as hell don't consider this girl black. But of course, he'll try to one-drop us nonetheless because he wants them to be able to commandeer our destiny. And that's the point I need to make here. Like I said, you have three choices. You can be an individual, which means you have to recreate your own identity from scratch, which is something nobody else has to do. Everybody else kind of inherits a community, inherits a racial identity, inherits an ethnicity, and they can basically create themselves through that. Mulattoes, because we're denied our own identity, we're denied our own ethnicity, we're denied our own community, we're told, hey, just be an individual, which means we kind of have to create ourselves from scratch, create our racial identity from scratch. Then there's the option of, just assimilate, just fold yourself into the black category. But that doesn't answer the existential question of who you are. Yeah, it might make things easier. When people ask, what are you? You can just say, I'm black. For the sake of social interactions, it makes your life easier. But it doesn't answer the deeper existential question of who I am. Who am I? And it isn't just black. It is African American and German. It is Nigerian and Mexican. You're not just black. So it doesn't answer that deeper existential question of who I am. It doesn't give you the full ability to integrate all parts of yourself into one whole identity. And then, of course, there's let's just get rid of race altogether, which is impossible because even if you get rid of race, humans, and this is something that Benedict Anderson talks about in Imagined Communities, humans imagine themselves as being part of a larger people, a larger history, a larger story. It's natural. It's healthy. So Black Americans see themselves as being a part of the African American community or the Black peoples of the world. I see myself as being a part of the imagined community of mulattoes, the mulattoes of the world. That's the imagined community I see myself as being a part of. And yes, there is kinship and there is genetics and there's heritage that's involved in that. There's boundaries between us and people who are not us. But that's the community psychologically I see myself as being a part of. So this girl here would be a part of my community. And basically he's trying to force her out of her community into Blackness. So once again, this guy is a monoracial operative. He tries to maneuver people, gaslight people, guilt them. And it's like, sir, you're not going to take away my inheritance. You're not going to take away my true identity and keep me from claiming it because you want to guilt trip me, into feeling bad for being who I am and claiming who I am. You want to guilt trip me and make me feel bad for saying I'm not Black, I'm mulatto, I'm not Black, I'm Dominican. You want to guilt trip me and make me feel bad for claiming my true identity. And that's how you know that the agenda is nefarious. It's a nefarious agenda to basically destiny swap. He wants to take your destiny away from you and give it to them. It's absurd. So never trust this guy. I don't take him seriously. I don't like him. He's another one of these woke pro-Black types who coddles African Americans. And that's fine. Be pro-Black, but don't talk about mulattoes. Keep mulattoes out of your mouth. Worry about your own community. Don't you have your own community to be worried about? Don't you got Mexicans to be worried about, Ricardo? Come on, man. Put some respect on the mulattoes. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and play the video. I just want to give you guys that brief introduction because this guy, man, this guy is a goofball. This guy is a straight goofball. And the fact that he thinks he can tell us who we are and how to identify, and he's not even one of us, he's a fucking Mexican, it is so disrespectful. This fucking Mexican thinks that he can tell mulattoes, Dominicans, how to identify. Are you fucking high? Sir, what are you smoking? We're not your people. You're not our people. You're not a part of our community. You're not a part of our tribe. You are an alien. You're an alien. You are an outsider, a permanent outsider. Never could you ever be a part of us. We don't want you a part of us. Go away. Go deal with the Mexicans or go back to coddling Blacks. I'm just sick of these people thinking they can tell us how to identify. It's sickening. We're our own community. We're our own people. We have our own history. So the fact that these people think they can just one-drop us and take that away from us for free without a fight is insane. I'm not going for it. This guy needs to keep his mouth shut and focus on his own community. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Yeah, I can't take this guy seriously. This guy is such a punk. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and proceed. Fair use.
They try to say I'm Black too. I am not Black, honey. I'm not Black, alright? I'm just Dominican. I am not mixed. If I was mixed, bro, my parents, either one of them would be so-called Black. They want to call them Black.
I mean, we're using mixed differently. Technically, Dominicans are a very mixed people, but they don't identify that way. You know what I mean? Because Dominican is its own ethnicity. Okay, so somebody who's mixed, it would be somebody who has two parents of different ethnicities or two parents of different races, right? So you're interacting, there's a living memory of you interacting with your own family members who are of different races or different ethnicities. That is technically mixed. Okay? That is what it means. You had a mixed social experience. You're interacting with people in your family who are of different races. She's just Dominican, right? So she's Taino, European, and African, but both of her parents are Dominican, so she didn't really have a mixed social experience, even though her bloodline is heavily mixed. It would kind of be like telling Sicilians, hey, Sicilians, you're mixed. It's like, well, Sicilians technically are mixed with Greek, Arab, Norman, Moroccan, right? Sicilians are technically mixed, but Sicilian is their identity, and that identity is what bonds all of them together. It creates a wholeness, a oneness. They're Sicilian, and they can pass that identity down over generations. So genealogically, they might be mixed, but they have no living memory of being associated with those other populations, Greeks, Arabs, Normans, North Africans. They're just Sicilian. So being genealogically mixed versus seeing yourself as mixed race is different. Or seeing yourself as just mixed. It's very different. It's a different kind of social experience. So I get what she's saying. Is she technically mixed? Biologically? Sure. But that's not how we use mixed in a social sense, just to clear anything up. Sicilians don't call themselves mixed, so I don't think Dominicans have to call themselves mixed. Anyways, fair use.
One of them will be black, one of them will be Dominican. Boom, I'm black and Dominican. No, shorty.
She said, nah, shawty. Where'd you learn to talk like that?
I mean, nah, shoddy, that's used all over the internet. And I feel like a lot of Dominicans talk that way. A lot of Latinas talk that way. It isn't just a black American thing. Nah, shoddy, they all kind of got that ratchet kind of thing going on, so. But of course, he's going to try to basically one-drop her again because she used the words nah, shoddy.
Which people did you learn that from? Your whole swag, talking about nah, shoddy. Who you learn to talk like that?
Okay, but what does that have to do with how she identifies racially? You can be white and talk like that and still not be considered black. This is a stupid point.
Brown girl, Mrs. Mino Black.
Well, people be
It's because she's not. It's because she's obviously not. Why is it our obligation to make them feel better about themselves? I've never understood that. It's like they want us to be their visual representation when it makes them feel good, but they don't want us to be their visual representation when it makes them feel small. So I'm done. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Why? I don't understand. Why is it our obligation to make them feel better about themselves by centering our blackness? White people don't care if we only identify as black and decenter our whiteness because they don't feel bad about their race. All these different monoracial groups, it's like their insecurities become the problem of mixed race people. And I'm saying, no, that's your problem. Become more confident in your identity. Don't put that onto us. What are we doing, man? This is ridiculous.
Is they try to get like information from the back time, the old days, and try to say Dominicans came from this piece of shit, so that makes you bad.
Oh, it's not just in what they say, but in how they say it. They tried to say that Dominicans came from this piece of shit. What, Dominicans came from Africa? They didn't?
That's not even what she said. Oh my God, this is so bad faith. This is so bad faith. That's not even what she said. He is taking a massive extrapolation from one thing. You have no idea what that even meant, but you're going to just assume that it's anti-black. You know, these people are looking for a reason to cancel you. Fuck them. It's ridiculous.
Where they come from then? And why is it important to highlight?
Because Dominicans, oh my God, this guy is retarded. Dominicans come from the convergence of three ancestral groups, three civilizations: African civilization, European civilization, and indigenous civilization. Okay? African slavery is only one chapter in the mulatto identity. It's only one chapter in the Dominican history. They come from the convergence of three peoples, three civilizations. This is the case for all mulattoes. In some cases, some mulattoes are only white and black, so maybe this wouldn't include them as much. But in her case, her people come from the convergence of indigenous, European, and African civilization. That's her inheritance, and she has every right to claim that.
What she said,
No, regardless of who feels bad about it.
they try to say that Dominicans came from that piece of shit. It's because of that.
That's not what she's saying at all. What is he talking about? You don't even, it was this statement was so vague. How could you even come to any concrete conclusion about what she said? Let's just play it back.
Information from the back time, the old days, and try to say Dominicans came from this piece of shit, so that makes you black.
Oh.
What does that mean? I don't even know what she said that was wrong. She could be referring to a white slave master. I don't know. But she's obviously talking about transatlantic slave trade and kind of the importation of slaves from the old world, or I guess I could say the African world. And she's saying that they're saying, oh, Dominicans came from this person, therefore you're just black. I mean, maybe it's poor wording, but still, we don't even know exactly what she meant. But either way, that kind of hypersensitivity is ridiculous, because you can say that about anybody else and get away with it. It's just only with black people you can't say that.
That in itself is everything you need to know. How they feel about themselves. How they feel about their African lineage. I've had the privilege.
What is he it's because the reason why they behave this way is because you guys are always trying to lump us into a category we don't belong to. We are the only ones who constantly have our identity policed and challenged. And when we claim it, we're told we're bad, we're evil, we're anti-black. But then if we don't claim it, we're told we're confused, or tragic mulattoes. You can't have it both ways. You fucking mestizos, you guys don't ever have your identity questioned. You can just say, I'm mestizo, and everybody respects it. You can say, I'm just Mexican, and everybody respects it. You can say, I'm Colombian, and everybody respects it. They're not, oh, how much percentage of indigenous do you have? Are you not claiming that? But Dominicans can't just say, I'm Dominican, and everybody accepts it. You have to be like, oh yeah, I'm black Dominican. Like, what the fuck? Like, nobody else is held to this standard. None of you other fucking Hispanics are held to this standard. Only mulattoes are held to this standard. The mestizos are not held to this standard. Asians are not held to this standard. It's only the mulattoes who are held to this ridiculous standard that we constantly have to display our fealty to blacks. Nobody else is told to do this except us. It's bullshit. It's bullshit.
Privilege of having a lot of conversations with a lot of Dominicans as I'm doing live streams on TikTok, and they request to come up to contribute, to add on regarding colorism, the anti-blackness from black-looking people that don't want.
What does black? There's no such thing as black looking. That's fake. If there's no such thing as black looking, that's another way of trying to one drop you. You look like a mulatto, African American with two black parents, and when I say black, you know what I mean. An African American with two black parents could never, under any circumstances, pass as a mulatto. Ever, ever, ever. They could never pass as us. They could never pass as us because they don't look like us. There is no such thing as looking black. If you mean you have some discernible African features, fair enough, but looking black means looking like somebody from the continent of Africa. The actual natives of those countries that don't have any mixture. Those are the true black people. All of us, we are heavily mixed with multiple things. So why is it always that they are trying to maneuver us back into a racial category that we don't belong to? That doesn't describe the majority of what we are, or a lot of what we are. And of course, it's to make them feel better about themselves. It's absurd. It's absurd.
To be black. that claim that they don't come from.
It's not about not wanting to be black. It's about we want to be who and what we are and not have that questioned all the time by people like you who are not us. Just be a Mexican. Just go be Mexican and stop talking about us. It's so weird, this kind of identity policing.
From Africa, that they came from Spain looking like that. And one of the most intense conversations that I had with a...
I mean, yeah, there's some ignorant Dominicans, that's fair enough, but most of them know, the median Dominican knows he's not just European. They know that they're a mixture of many things: African, indigenous, European. They understand and conceptualize race very differently. He's trying to project an American racial kind of understanding onto a Dominican person. They understand race very differently over there. So it could also just be kind of a, things get lost in translation. But I don't understand, why do they feel the need to kind of go around telling other people who and what they are? Kind of to like take ownership over them. It's disgusting behavior. Like, just stay in your place,
Dominican
dog.
is one of them that came up to my panel and wanted to share with me and my audience his views when it comes to Dominicans claiming that they are not African and why they're so resentful.
Because when you say they're not about claiming they're not African, it's about constantly trying to tell these people how they should identify and who they are when they have the right to self-definition. They have the right to self-determination. They should have sovereignty over their identity the same way everybody else seems to have it. Nobody goes up to Asians and says, hey, you need to identify as just Asian. Nobody goes up to mestizos and say, hey, you guys need to identify as just Indian. Nobody goes up to somebody who's Chindian and says, you need to identify as just Chinese. Everybody has their identity more or less respected. It's only with black people, if you're mixed with black, that there's this insane double standard. It's insane. And people get sick of it at some point because you're trying to tell them who and what they are, and you're trying to relocate them in the world. Identity is how you locate yourself in the world. Identity is what attaches you to a larger community, a larger people, psychologically. So when you try to tell somebody how their identity is false and how they need to identify differently, you're taking away these other crucial benefits of identity and saying, fuck all that, you're just black. That's basically what you're doing. So we have the right to be defensive because you guys are trying to relocate us in the world. And you're trying to present it under this kind of compassionate, woke, liberal, pro-black, but I can see through it. I can see through it. What you're trying to do is you're trying to tell us to fall in line. Hey, fall in line, mulatto. Hey, fall in line, Dominican. Fuck that. We have our own people. We have our own identity. Fucking respect it. And we're putting up that barrier. Like, it's got to get to a point where these people don't even think that they can question us because it's gone on way too long.
Towards Africans and Africa. See, this individual came up to my panel.
We claim our African roots. I'm proud of my African roots. I have no shame about it. You know what I mean? As a mulatto. No shame. But it's like the reason they get defensive is because you guys never do it in good faith. There's always some kind of political agenda tied to it. Oh, just identify. Oh, you're African. Confirm you're African. You're African, right? No, you're definitely African. It's like, damn, nigga, like we're many things. It's like we have no problem acknowledging it, but it's like this weird, like they want to just, I don't know, like they want to test you. It's like I said, there's a political agenda attached to it. That's the reason why it's such a problem. And that's the reason why people get so defensive.
And on TikTok, every individual with an account has a name on there. And his name was Taino. Taino meaning the indigenous people of that island in Dominican Republic and Haiti. So I initiated the conversation asking him, why is your name Taino? I said, what if you did a DNA test and the results came back showing you that you have African DNA rather than Taino? Would you still claim to be Taino? And he said, I don't have this name because I claim to be Taino. I have this name because I identify with the Taino. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, because the Taino people were just here minding their business in their own land. When all of a sudden, here comes these foreigners from Europe to bother them, to destroy their lifestyle, to destroy their civilization, to enslave them, when all they were doing was minding their business. And I said, well, wouldn't you say the same thing about Africans? They were just minding their business, and all of a sudden, here comes these foreigners from Europe to kidnap them, to drag them out of their homes, and enslave them somewhere else, in this case, Dominican Republic? And he said, no, Ricardo. Because unfortunately, and people are going to hate that I'm going to say this as a Dominican, but unfortunately, Africans were enslaving each other. And
Which is true, actually, which is absolutely true. They were.
Europeans.
That's absolutely true. All these different African kingdoms, there was constant raids and counter raids. You'd have Central African kingdoms being raided by West African kingdoms. And these Central Africans who were enslaved had to march all the way from Central Africa, thousands of miles north, to West Africa, where they would be sold off to Europeans at the coast. This is documented history. Everybody knows this. As a matter of fact, let's just look it up. It's just, the other thing too is these people always want to rewrite history. You can't let them rewrite history. Was it common for captured Africans to be forced to traverse thousands of miles north by other African kingdoms to be sold into slavery? Give specific names of kingdoms and companies involved in the selling of Africans to European colonizers. Yes, in many regions of Africa, it was common for captives to be transported long distances before reaching the Atlantic coast, though the distances varied considerably by region and period. Some captives traveled only a few days, while others were marched hundreds or even over 1,000 miles through established trade routes before being sold to European or Afro-European traders. It is important, however, not to imagine a single uniform system. The Atlantic slave trade lasted roughly from the 16th through the 19th centuries and involved thousands of African polities, merchants, middlemen, and European companies whose roles changed over time. How the system generally worked. In most of West and West Central Africa, Europeans rarely penetrated deep inland before the 19th century because of disease, logistics, and political resistance. Instead, they established forts and trading posts on the coast. The chain often looked like this: inland wars, raids, judicial enslavement, or kidnapping produced captives. This is all Africans. Africans waging war on other Africans, raiding other kingdoms, enslaving each other, kidnapping each other. And then regional African merchants or kingdoms purchased or received captives. So regional African merchants or kingdoms would purchase these enslaved Africans. The captives were marched to coastal slave markets, once again by more Africans, where European merchants and charter companies bought captives at coastal forts. European ships transported them across the Atlantic. So there was wars, raids, enslavement, kidnapping. Regional African merchants and kingdoms would buy those captives. The captives were marched to the coastal slave markets, and then that's when the Europeans would buy them. So there was an entire economy in Africa based on the enslavement of other Africans. Crazy. examples of African kingdoms that were involved. The kingdom of Dahomey, present-day Benin. So the kingdom of Dahomey was involved in it. One of the best documented slave trading states. Interesting. They conducted military campaigns specifically to capture prisoners. They sold captives through the port of Ouidah, I guess. Sold captives through the port of Ouidah. Traded with Portuguese, French, Dutch, and British merchants. And during the 18th century, slave exports became a major source of royal revenue. Fascinating. The Asante Empire. Prisoners of war were sometimes incorporated into society while many others were sold. Okay, so that's the Asante Empire, modern-day Ghana. The Oyo Empire. The Kingdom of Congo. Imbanagla. Lunda Empire. So there you go. Now, it doesn't mean that those sold into slavery don't deserve sympathy. They absolutely do, because it was a crime against humanity that this was even allowed to begin with. But let's not lie about the history, okay? Let's just be honest about the history. Anyways, let's proceed. Fair use.
Only took advantage of that condition that Africans were already putting themselves through.
That's largely true. That's largely true. Although the indigenous weren't exactly, peaceful, loving people. At least not the ones in North America or South America with the Aztecs. They were, in many cases, vicious and brutal to each other.
Europeans only came to exploit what Africans were already doing to themselves.
Yes, that is a factually accurate statement. Yes, that is true. Europeans took advantage of what Africans were already doing to each other for a long time. Yes, that is objectively true. For thousands of years, yes.
That is why although I acknowledge that I come from those African people, I reject them because we are only in this condition that we are in because of them. And that is when I realized the resentment that people have towards their African lineage. And I could sit here and tell you...
I can't relate. I'm very proud of my West African roots. So, I do know that there is a problem with white worship in the Dominican Republic. And it is unfortunately pretty common in many countries in Latin America. But as an American mulatto, I'm very proud of my West African ancestry, my West African roots. I'm just as proud of those ones as I am of my European and indigenous ones. So, no shame on this side. No shame whatsoever. And if there are Dominicans who are ashamed of their African ancestry, it's because they haven't found balance in their identity yet. But then again, they don't even see themselves as mulattoes. They just see themselves as Dominicans. So the component of their racial composition, it's not fully coherent. It's not fully fleshed out. They see themselves as being a kind of standalone entity, as if Dominicans existed before Europeans and Mesoamericans and Africans. But either way, that's not me. I don't condone that. I'm very proud of all of my ancestry. So anyways, can't relate. But no, he does point out a legitimate issue. There is this weird hatred of their, in some cases, I don't want to generalize like he's doing, but I have heard of Dominicans who have shame regarding their African ancestry. So yeah, just want to say that's not me and I don't condone that. Anyways, fair use.
You about all the conversations that I had with different Dominicans. A lot of them born in Dominican Republic and some of them born in the U.S. and some of them born in Dominican Republic but migrated to the U.S. But instead of telling you what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert those conversations here so you could judge for yourself and you could determine what's what and who's who. Are Dominicans self-hating black people, or are they simply just the people that want to identify as Dominican and nothing else?
That's a massive generalization. See, why is it okay for them to make massive generalizations about us, which harms our reputation, but we can't do the same towards them? They can say Dominicans are self-hating black people, which is a false claim on multiple fronts. First off, it's a massive overgeneralization, but second off, I wouldn't even consider them black. That's number one. But number two, why is it that they can make these insane generalizations about mixed race people, mulattoes specifically, But if I say blacks are criminals, if I say blacks have a culture of violence, if I say blacks don't take care of their children, if I say blacks have a problem with fatherlessness, oh, you're anti-black. Oh, you're generalizing the whole community. Oh, they don't all say that. Oh, they don't all do that. So they can generalize about us as much as they want, which destroys our reputation and harms us in the real world, but we can't do the same about them. Insane how that works. Insane how that works. I reject that.
Into these conversations, and you decide.
You don't know much about Dominicans. I think you should do your homework before you talk about Dominicans. I see in the video that you talk about
like this guy here, this guy doesn't even really look African. This guy looks like he could pass for mestizo almost. So like Dominicans are a very mixed country, and they want to just lump them all in to the black category as if they're like another African nation. It's just very disrespectful and very kind of entitled.
Deporting people because they're black, and Mexico's deporting a lot of Haitians. So it's not about race. You don't know our history. You don't know our genetics, because we're Dominican. We are a special race. We have
exactly. He's correct.
On our blood. We have European on our blood when they came on 1492. You should know that before you talk about our race. You were talking about this girl that she says she's not black, and she was right. She's not black. She's Dominican. If you ask me who I am, I'm going to tell you I'm Dominican. If you ask me, are you white? I'm going to tell you, no, I'm not. Even though I'm
And this is, by the way, what's funny here is that Ricardo doesn't understand. He's engaging in monoracism, which is the most normalized form of racism on earth. But
I am white.
Excuse me. He's engaging in monoracism because he's basically trying to invalidate the racial identity of Dominicans who are a mixed race people to push them back into a monoracial category. Blackness. That is monoracism. That is a prime example of monoracism. So we live in this culture that is supposed to be tolerant, that is supposed to be accepting of all people, of all backgrounds. We're supposed to be living in an anti-racist culture. That only goes one way. That only goes one way. It's a one-way street. You can be as racist as you want towards mulattoes, Asians, whites, but you can't say anything about blacks or you know who and a few other groups. So this whole anti-racist thing, it's a one-way street. It's another way of kind of taking power. So when these people try to take the moral high ground over you, just say, I can't take you serious. I can't take you serious because it's unrequited. It's unreciprocated loyalty. It's one way. So yes, this is a form of monoracism. They can get away with monoracism, but we can't get away with racism towards black people, which I understand. I get that. But this is monoracism. So it's okay to do monoracism, but you can't do black racism. Certain forms of racism are okay, but other forms are not. It's not really anti-racist when you really peel back the curtain. So this is monoracism. You are trying to minimize the identity and the experience and the racial composition of a whole nation to reduce them to one racial category. That's monoracism, textbook monoracism. And as a matter of fact, let's just look up the definition of monoracism. Because this guy, Ricardo Ignacio, is a monoracist. Monoracism is a form of discrimination and social oppression that targets people who do not fit into a single traditional monoracial category, like Dominicans. It privileges people with one distinct racial identity while dismissing or erasing the experiences of multiracial and mixed-race individuals. Sounds a lot like Ricardo. He wants to exalt black identity above multiracial and mixed identity. And what this does is it gives them the ability to dismiss and erase our experience as multiracial and mixed race people. So he is a textbook monoracist. Ricardo Ignacio is a monoracist. Clocked him. Got his ass. Got him. Anyways, let's proceed. Fair use.
First thing you said is we Dominicans were a special race. Dominican is not a race. Dominican is a nationality. You said Dominicans are a special race because we're
Dominican is also an ethnicity. No, he's correct. Dominican is not a race. Mulatto is a race. Mulatto is a race. Dominican is not a race. And mulatto is a transnational race. There's mulattoes in Canada. There's mulattoes in Latin America. There's mulattoes here in the United States. There's mulattoes in Europe. There's mulattoes even in Africa. They have different terms, but I use the word mulatto because it has the most history attached to it. So no, Dominican is not a race, but mulatto certainly is. Anyways, fair use.
Mixed with different races. I got newsflash for you. Every people in the Americas is mixed with all of these three races. All of them.
First off, that's not true. That's not true. That's a vast oversimplification. I'm sure they might have some small percentage, but it's not enough of a percentage that would significantly affect their phenotype or how they're perceived socially. At all. And I said this the other day in one of my shorts. I said, anytime somebody says we're all mixed, that's a way of dismissing your experience. It's a way of minimizing your identity. Because an African American with 15 or 20% European admixture, all of that came from other African Americans. Most of it, right? And then they might have one distant white relative on their mother's side, a few on their father's side, distant ancestors who engaged in unspeakable acts, and that's how that white DNA entered their bloodline. But they have no living memory. That's the key word. No living memory attached to that DNA. No living memory attached to that ancestry. The only thing they've ever known is blackness, the black experience. They've internalized black history. Psychologically, they see themselves as black. That's the psychological community they see themselves as being a part of. Even with that 15, 20% white DNA that they have no living memory of. Mulattoes were different. We have a living memory associated with our mixed heritage. In many cases. Unless you're like a multi-generational mulatto. It's a little bit different. But even then, all you've ever known is your two parents who are heavily mixed. So much so that it constitutes a unique social experience in a way that doesn't apply for Black Americans. So for a lot of us first-generation biracials, even second-generation biracials, we know our white relatives, our Hispanic relatives. We've interacted with them. We've engaged with them. We have a living memory associated with that part of our identity, with the white part or the Hispanic part of our identity. There's a living memory associated with it because we interacted with them growing up. African Americans did not interact with their white, distant ancestors growing up because they're long gone. So there's no meaningful connection to that DNA. It's just there. We have a meaningful connection to our Hispanic origin, our European origin. There's an actual real connection there. We sat at the table with them for Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners. We're connected to them psychologically in a way that African Americans are not. And what he's basically trying to do is he's trying to dismiss our identity, dismiss who we are, invalidate who we are by saying, well, everybody's mixed. It's not the same. It will never be the same. They have no living memory associated with their white ancestors or that white DNA. We do. We have a living memory associated with it because we grew up with them. These African Americans did not. It's not the same, and it will never be the same. So the whole everybody is mixed shit is retarded. By this logic, you could invalidate everybody's identity. Nobody's identity would mean anything. You could say, oh, there's no such thing as a Sicilian because Sicilians are mixed. Sicilians have North African and Arab and Greek and Norman DNA in their bloodline. So therefore, there's no such thing as a Sicilian. We're all just mixed. No, Sicilian is a unique and specific identity that describes a unique and specific people. Mixed is a unique and specific identity that describes a unique experience and a unique kind of people. It isn't just genealogically mixed. There's a social experience associated with that not everybody has a claim to. Same thing with Dominicans. Sure, Dominicans are mixed, but Dominican describes a specific, distinct people that are located in a specific, distinct place. The Dominican Republic. Not everybody can just claim that identity because they have some European and some indigenous in their ancestry. It's not the same. It's extremely disrespectful to their identity, extremely disrespectful to who they are as a people. You're trying to minimize their peoplehood, deny their peoplehood. It's extremely disrespectful that these fucking Mexicans and blacks think that they can do this. It's extremely disrespectful that they think they can do this. We don't do this to any of them. It's only us that they try to invalidate. It's very disrespectful. Think about people in France. You know, people in France, there was prehistoric migration. And then, of course, there was migration from Germany and other parts of Western Europe and Southern Europe. And they all immigrated into France, all these different tribes and clans. And then eventually, they became a cohesive ethnic group, the French. But the French don't identify as, oh, I'm this old clan, and I'm that old clan, and I'm that old tribe, and I'm this old prehistoric migratory group. Because they have no connection to that. There's no living memory associated with that. That's why they just call themselves French. Even the French are mixed. But they have one whole cohesive identity that describes who they are and how they experience the world. And that's what's more important. As opposed to just, what's your specific genealogical breakdown? That totally flattens distinctions between any group of people. It is a bad faith, disingenuous, ridiculous argument to say we're all mixed. It's just another way of invalidating your identity. And you'll notice that they never do this to anybody else. They never do this to invalidate black people's identity in the United States. They never do this to invalidate white people's identity in the United States. They don't do this to invalidate anybody's identity except mulattoes, except mixed race individuals. We are the only ones who constantly have our identity invalidated under the banner of we're all mixed. By that logic, whites are mixed, blacks are mixed. We're all mixed, so there is no distinctions in identity and in the way we experience the world. But of course, that's not true. There is a difference in the way we experience the world. There is a difference in the way we locate ourselves in the world, in the human story. It's different, and that deserves to be respected. And until we get that same respect, I'm going to be here talking my shit. It's very disrespectful the way these people behave. Very disrespectful. Nobody else is subjected to this amount of scrutiny and this amount of invalidation. We are the only ones who are put through this. Fucking ridiculous.
So there's nothing special about you or Dominicans at all.
Nah, homie. Because by that logic, I could say there's nothing special about Mexicans, but I'm sure you wouldn't go for that. Mexicans have a distinct and specific and unique identity attached to their history. Not just their genealogy, their history, who they are as a people, the different groups that came together to create the Mexican ethnicity. Every group of people has this story, including Dominicans. And the fact that you think you can fucking trample all over that is real disrespectful, Brody. Real disrespectful. You're trampling over an entire nation of people right now when you act like this. You're stepping on them because you think that you can assert moral authority over them. Bro, you're a Mexican. You're not Dominican, Brody. Stay in your lane. Stay in your spot. Deal with Mexican affairs. It isn't your spot to be going around telling everybody else who and what they aren't. Who they are and what they're not. Nah, that's not your spot. That's not your place, bro. Very disrespectful. I don't go around telling everybody else, hey, you're not special. Mexicans aren't special. French people aren't special. Koreans aren't special. We're all mixed. No, they have a distinct identity as Koreans, as Mexicans, as French people, tied not just to their genealogy, because that's just one part of the story. but their history, the narrative about who they are, their origin story, their culture, the meaning and significance of their identity. It's much deeper than just genealogy, much deeper than that. Your specific DNA quantity. You're talking about a people, a whole people, who have a rich history and a rich culture. And yes, it is unique. There's only one Dominican Republic. There's only one. And there's only one Dominican people. And nobody else is entitled to their history or their identity except them. So as a Mexican, as an outsider, as an alien, thinking you can go to them and say, hey, you're not that. Hey, you're not special. Hey, your identity is meaningless. Very disrespectful. Nobody else is expected to tolerate this except mulattoes. It's bullshit.
You are just a product of colonization as well as ethnic cleansing like the rest of us, sir. Okay? That was a mistake, right?
Nah, see, and once again, they try to reduce your entire history to something negative. Because by this logic, think about Africa. Think about parts of Asia. All of those countries in Africa that you see today, those were not countries 100 years ago. Those countries didn't even exist. Nigeria, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire. None of those countries were real 100 years ago. Chad, Niger, none of those countries existed. The Europeans went in, colonized those countries, drew up artificial borders, and pushed a bunch of tribes together. But if you were to go there and say, hey, your guys' tribes, your guys' countries, there's nothing special about that. These are all artificial borders drawn up by the colonizers, drawn up by Europeans. What you're basically saying is the culture, the people, the government, the institutions that were put inside those colonial borders that were artificially drawn, all that is illegitimate. All that is invalid too, because the colonizers are the ones who created these borders. And it's like, sure, the colonizers might have done certain things to control and kind of maneuver a certain population of people and created these artificial identities. But at the end of the day, the people who inherited those things are still real. They still exist. They still have a unique history. They still have a rich culture. They still have contributions to the world, rich contributions to the world. I'm sure he would never think about going up to a bunch of Africans and saying, hey, you're not special. None of your cultures are special. None of your countries are special. All these borders were drawn artificially by colonizers. He would never think about saying that. Why? Because he's pro-black woman. That's why. That's why. So he holds a double standard for us that he wouldn't apply to them. By this logic, everybody's identity is illegitimate. Because Europeans colonized the whole world. But it doesn't mean that the people who lived in those borders are illegitimate, that their history is illegitimate, that their identity is illegitimate, that their language, that the way they identify is illegitimate. It's who they are. It's their story. And to just try to reduce that to, oh, it's just colonization, very disrespectful from this gentleman here. Very disrespectful. Not really understanding why he thinks he can get away with that.
Right there.
Until he goes to an African, how about this? How about you go and tell all these, 54, 55 African nations, how about you tell them, hey, there's nothing special about you guys, you Somalians, you Eritreans, you Ethiopians, you Congolese, you Nigerians, you Rwandans. Nah, you guys, no differences at all. You guys aren't special. These are all just colonial borders that were artificially drawn. You're not special. Your identities aren't unique in any way. Nah, you guys, this is all colonization. How about you go to Africa, you tell them that, and then come and speak to us. But until then, I don't want to hear shit from this guy. Because he won't call it both ways. He's one-sided with it. So go and tell those Africans that. Or how about you go to Asia, and you tell all those different Asian countries, the Indonesians, the Filipinos, the Cambodians, the people in Hong Kong, Singaporeans. How about you go there and tell them, hey, your guys' identities, that's not unique. You guys are all the same people. These borders, they were drawn up by colonizers. But you wouldn't say that. These countries, they were colonized at one point. You wouldn't say that because that invalidates the existence of the very people who were there and who created an identity in the aftermath of that history and integrated that history into their identity. You would never think about saying that to them. You only want to do it to mulattoes. You don't want to do it to Africans. You don't want to do it to Asians. Because you don't got that, you don't got that dog in you like that, homie. You don't got that dog in you like that. You're not like that, bro. You're not like that. You only want to call it one way. You got to call it always. Otherwise, don't even speak on it.
No such thing as Dominicans as a special race. What makes you special? That you mix with all these races?
It's their history. It's their history. It's the psychological attachment that they have to one another, their home. The Dominican Republic, that's their home. The African, European, and Taino history is a part of their history. Not everybody is that specific kind of Indian or kind of indigenous person. Not all the indigenous people are Taino. Tainos are a very specific kind of indigenous people. He's trying to flatten all these differences to push his narrative, to push his pro-black agenda. This guy is so dishonest and nefarious. I can't stand it.
All are. And the reasons for being mixed with all these races, it's not a good reason. It's nothing to romanticize.
Nobody's romanticizing it, Brody. Nobody's romanticizing it. But even then, that's normal because humans have a tendency to want to cope or create a healthy sense of self, even in the aftermath of difficult circumstances. So what, are we all just supposed to see ourselves as weak, meaningless, colonized victims forever, with no real identity, with no real autonomy, that we're just going to discard hundreds of years worth of our history? Why? Colonization is just one aspect, one chapter in the Dominican story. You want to reduce it and make it the whole thing. Nah, it's just one chapter in the Dominican story. And just to reduce it to colonization, that is, unironically, a weak mindset. That's a weak-ass white supremacist mindset. Oh, these colonizers whooped y'all's ass and pushed all you guys together. So that means you shouldn't even be identifying as Dominican. Like you unironically are pushing what sounds like white supremacy. By minimizing these people's experience to being nothing more than colonial subjects. Very disrespectful. Maybe you feel that way. We don't feel that way. The Dominicans don't feel that way. And this experience is unique to the Americas. It is. It's a part of the history of the Americas. The convergence of three civilizations, African, European, and indigenous. That's only happened here in the Western Hemisphere. It hasn't happened anywhere else in the world. It's here. So that is a part of our history, regardless of what you think, Ricardo. I can't stand this guy. Like, he gets on his high horse and he thinks he can speak for entire populations of people. How fucking arrogant can you be? How fucking arrogant can you be? He's like a white liberal woman who thinks she can speak for blacks. That's exactly who this guy is. He's a pro-black, alien, outsider Mexican who thinks he can get up on his high horse and speak for millions of people across the world. What's more disrespectful than that? Oh my God.
To say, oh my God, you are a product of grape is what you are. Now,
see, once again, you're trying to reduce entire populations to the product of grape. And this guy is supposed to be, and this is supposedly the spokesman for Mexicans. Hey, all the Mexicans watching this video, do you guys co-sign this message? Do you guys agree with what Ricardo Ignacio is saying? I'm asking all the Mexicans. If you're Mexican and you're watching this video, I want you to comment down below. What he's basically insinuating is all you Mexicans, all you mestizos out there in Latin America, you guys don't have any real identity. You don't have any real story. You don't have any rich culture. You're just a byproduct of grape. Do you Mexicans co-sign this? I'm asking, seriously, comment down below. Do you Mexicans co-sign what this guy is saying? He's reducing the entire history of multiple Latin American countries to grape. Hundreds of years of history. I would say thousands when you consider the pre-colonial Mesoamerican societies. Like the Mayans and the Aztecs and the Incas. And the other ones in Central America, they're slipping my mind right now. Where my ancestors are from, he's reducing our entire history to nothing more than grape. Colonization is just one chapter of the entire history of our people. That's what these fucking idiots can't get through their head. I only see colonization as one chapter in our story, not the whole story, one chapter. One chapter. Now it's the most recent chapter and we're writing a new one, but nonetheless, it is one chapter. It's not the whole story. So to reduce an entire people to, oh, you're nothing more than the byproduct of grape is very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. Like I said, who does this guy think he is, man? Why aren't the Mexicans calling this guy out? Where are the Mexicans to get on this guy's ass and tell him, hey, man, you don't speak for us? Because, hey, I like Mexicans. I do. I rock with the Mexicans. I don't ever want you guys to think I got bad blood for you guys. I got love for you guys. I really do. Most of my friends are Mexicans. But this guy, who does this guy think he is? Where are the Mexicans to call this guy out and say, hey, stop disrespecting Latin America like that? I'm waiting on it because this guy is getting real comfortable. This guy is real comfortable on the internet talking shit about all of y'all like this. And trying to minimize all of our identities to nothing more than grape. I don't know how this guy is still on the internet. How people let this guy slide like this. It's crazy. This guy needs to be getting called out every single day from all of you guys. All the Mexicans, all the Colombians, where are you guys to call this dude out? I don't get it.
Addressing the video about the young lady who's Dominican who said, I'm not African descent, I'm Hispanic. I speak Spanish. She is phenotypically African descent, black. You cannot tell.
There's no such thing as phenotypically African descent if you're not black with dark skin. That's not a thing. You have, like, people need to understand, you can't look like a Dominican if you're only African descent. It's impossible. It's not possible. If all of your ancestry and the people we call black, if all of your ancestry is sub-Saharan African, you can't look like this guy down here in the bottom left. You can't. It's impossible. You can't look like a Dominican, a mulatto, if you only have sub-Saharan DNA. It is literally impossible. So to say you look black or you look African, that doesn't mean anything. Just because you have some discernible African features doesn't mean you only look African. It doesn't make sense. The statement doesn't add up. It doesn't. Because you can only look like a Dominican if you are the combination of those three races, European, Indigenous, and African. If you're not the combination of those three peoples, you can't look Dominican. If you're only African, you can't look Dominican. So why are you trying to get rid of two other parts of their bloodline? It doesn't describe the whole picture. I don't understand that. I don't understand. This guy's worldview is so alien to me.
Tell the difference between her and a black American. The only
You
time
absolutely can tell the difference. Yes, you can. You absolutely can tell the difference. We all know that these Dominicans who are 40% or 45% African, 40% European, 15% Taino do not look like the average African American. The average African American who has 80% sub-Saharan African DNA. They don't look the same. Why do we keep doing this? Why are we still doing this in 2026? We have all the DNA testing out there already. We know the differences phenotypically. They could not be more obvious. I don't know why we have to keep explaining this. It's just they don't want to listen. They don't care.
you'll even tell the difference is when she opens her mouth and speaks Spanish.
That's not true at all. That's not true at all. I can immediately tell the difference between a mulatto and an African American, the average African American, not the outliers, not the light skins, the average African American, the median African American, the majority of African Americans, not Stephen Curry, not some one-off, the average African American, the median, the majority do not look Dominican. They want to kind of like pick the outliers. I just can't understand why people have so much trouble grasping this concept. I don't get it.
Is he black?
If I go by his color, I would say he's black.
Are there people that look just like him that are Dominican?
Yes, a bunch.
Okay, cool. When the word black is being used, it means African descent. So now black people hear Dominicans say, I'm not black, I speak.
Oh, finally. Now he's saying black, and he's saying that means African descent. Interesting. But somebody who's clearly multiracial, what was I going to say? He said black means African descent. Yes. Yeah. In America, if you're saying black means African descent, what you would be pointing to is people who look closer to an African person, right? If black means African descent, you're saying those two words are synonymous. So what we're talking about is people who, in America, who see themselves as black. That means they have a African aesthetic, an African phenotype. That's what he's saying. Black means African descent. So people who have a unique phenotype or a distinct phenotype that is a byproduct of combining multiple races, how can you say they just look black? If black means African descent, and there's very few exceptions on the continent of Africa who might look like they could be Dominican, very few, if any, why would you try to conflate them? Why would you try to make them sound the same? One group has 3 races, the other group is basically one entire race, maybe some admixture. People are really having a tough time grasping this concept. Really tough time. Just because you have some discernible African DNA does not mean you look like an African. People have a hard time understanding this.
Spanish. What the hell does the language that you speak have to do with?
But hold on. I explained to you that we are mixed. Like you're trying to say they all come from Africa. Even if his color is black, he could feel European.
There's no way I could ever assimilate into whiteness, even though I got 15% Irish.
Even if
I don't know what the hell this Dominican guy down here is really stupid. I feel bad for the Dominicans being represented by this guy, because this guy is a horrible representation of y'all.
the color of your skin is black and you say you have a European, how you identify more as a European or as a black American?
As a black person. This very superficial color of skin dictates a lot in this country. But I would imagine the black people that look like me in the Dominican Republic probably make a lower income and have lower access too.
No,
okay, so I
thank you.
have a question for you. Of all of the presidents of the Dominican Republic, have a majority of them look like me with my color?
No, we had one candidate, but
okay. That's all I'm asking. If you look at all of the big companies in the Dominican Republic, are a majority of them, their CEOs look like me?
Not really. We have a bunch of black CEOs.
But do you see how I can make those assumptions?
You're making the color of his skin as an excuse. I used to live in Harlem, so I have a lot of black friends there. And let me tell you something. They will stay home smoking pot. So if you get the opportunity and you get the chance and the government is paying you a loan so you could go to school, why they don't go to school? I mean, you cannot keep feeling as a victim when you have a chance to grow, to become better. Don't tell me the Spanish are going to come from Dominican and go over there, not even speaking English, and they're going to progress. They're going to buy a bodega. And you, American who speak English and who have all the chances on the world, you can make it.
You ask me, Mexico is deporting Haitians. Are they?
I mean, I basically agree with everything he just said. Like, all of that was correct. I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of an overgeneralization with the pot smoking part, but he's only referring to his friends from Harlem. He's absolutely correct. Yeah, everything he just said was on the money.
Racist.
Yes, I asked you that.
I'll answer it for you. The answer is yes. Let me prove it to you. Mexico has systemically made the effort to bring in Europeans. They brought in Europeans by the boatloads because they wanted to whiten Mexico. For the same reason why in Dominican Republic, Trujillo wiped out how many black people from Dominican Republic? It's for that same reason. Because these colonized countries in Latin America are trying to whiten the countries.
That's true. No, everything Ricardo just said right there was correct. Everything he just said there was correct. And I disavow any of that. Any kind of intentional bleaching process, to me, unethical. I would never co-sign that. The systemic, or I guess you could say systematic, top-down attempt to erase a certain phenotype from your country through basically intermarriage, which is what they did in Argentina. They were like having Africans and Europeans basically have children together to kind of whiten the bloodline after multiple generations, and they pushed them out of certain places of the country. They kind of outnumbered them. I don't co-sign any of that. And that is a part of Latin American culture that, like I said, I've always despised. I've seen it too many times. And that's something we as American mulattoes cannot allow ourselves to be conquered by. We can't allow ourselves to be conquered by this kind of fascination with Europeans. But I think for the most part, we're good on that. We're just very proud to be mulatto. That's it. Anyways, fair use.
This family is not black. We are mixed race. If you tell me that I'm black or something like that, you are telling me to give up my culture. If you are from North America, it's different. And they are not so mixed like us, you know? Dominicans are all mixed.
A problem there.
He's correct. Everything he just said there was objectively correct. And I don't even understand why this is a controversial statement. Like, why is this even a debate? It's just everything he's saying is just true. It's just objectively true. There are different people, a different culture, different biological makeup, different history, and it's theirs. And out of that, out of the combination of those things, they created a distinct identity, which is Dominican, that describes who they are. I don't even understand why this is a controversial thing to begin with. There's nothing controversial about this. Nobody is forcing people from Kazakhstan who are European and Asian to just identify as Asian. That's not controversial because they're a distinct people, a distinct ethnic group. They're Eurasians. They're European and Asian. But we don't hear any controversy about that. So why is it that Dominicans, mulattoes, are the only ones who are made to feel bad for saying we're a unique group of people? We're not just black. We're a unique group of people. We're a mixture of things. Why is it that we're made to feel bad for that, but those Eurasians in Kazakhstan are not? They're not being accused of distancing themselves from their Asian ancestry, their Asian roots. Mulattoes are the only ones accused of doing this. Blatant double standard. And they're engaged in it. It's a psychological warfare campaign. It's an attempt to brainwash you and take away your unique identity. Absurd. Absolutely absurd.
Have with our society is that we don't know the difference between race, ethnicity, culture, and nationality.
Obviously, you're the one who doesn't understand the difference. You don't understand the difference, Ricardo. You just said Dominican is a nationality. No, Dominican is an ethnic group. The country of the Dominican Republic, yeah, that is a nation. Technically, it's a nationality. But if you come to the United States and you're Dominican, that's your ethnicity. You're in the diaspora now. So you're ethnically Dominican. Ethnicity describes culture and kin. Who is close to you in kin, biologically and historically, and who do you have a culture with? That is your ethnic group, culture and kin. And a lot of times, nationality and ethnic group go hand in hand. German is a nationality, but it's also an ethnic group. Italian is a nationality, but it's also an ethnic group. Dominican, in the same way, is a nationality, but it's also an ethnic group. So he's trying to basically erase the ethnic component of it and tell them they're just black. Oh, no, Dominican, that's just a nationality, but y'all are just black. No, Dominican is a specific ethnic group that is comprised of multiple kinds of people with a shared history. They have kinship and they have a shared culture, which is distinct from African cultures and African American culture. It's not the same. You can't just lump it in to erase them. It's absurd what he's trying to do here. He's trying to literally blackwash their country. I don't understand why people can't just respect us. So Ricardo is the only one who doesn't understand the difference between nationality, race, and ethnicity. He doesn't seem to get it because he keeps trying to tell us that biracials in America are black. And it's like, no, because black is biologically tied to sub-Saharan Africa. And the more you look like them, the closer you are to their race. The more of their blood you have, the closer you are to their race. But if you're biracial, if you're mixed race, and you consider yourself mulatto or you consider yourself biracial or mixed, he's going to try to tell you, oh, you're just black. Even though biologically you're very different. So one day he'll say, oh, race is just a social construct. But then he'll try to say black is tied to African ancestry. So when he wants to deny you your identity, he'll say, oh, race is just a social construct, right? To kind of deny your identity as a mulatto, to deny your identity as a Dominican. But then in the same token, he'll try to lump you in with black people based on phenotype, which comes from your biology. It's like these people want to kind of maneuver you, and they play all these kinds of semantic word games. It's just duplicitous. Anyways, fair use.
You are born in Dominican Republic. Your nationality then is Dominican. Race is what you are presenting. You could only be one race. In this particular case, you are black.
No. This is monoracism. I don't get it. Why is this tolerated? Why is this tolerated at all? First off, no, you don't. First off, I reject this wholesale. You don't have to, you can just say you're mixed and say, I don't belong to any racial category. You're not obligated to fit yourself into any racial category. You're not. On the US Census, you can click mixed. And you can just deny that whole BS altogether. Race is not just what you're presenting as. That's bullshit. Because by that logic, Jews would be considered white. And a lot of people contest that claim because they have a significant amount of Levantine DNA. By this logic, mestizos could just be considered white. Even though a lot of mestizos have Native American features, but they have white skin. By this logic, Arabs, Syrians, even Persians to some extent, who have white skin, you just identify them as white. Because it's about your presentation or whatever. You're erasing so many different people from the world by trying to force them into these racial groups. You'd be erasing mestizos. You'd be erasing Arabs. You'd be erasing so many different people by trying to force them into one monoracial category. This is just monoracism. That's what this is. It's monoracism. Just because somebody has some discernible black features, some discernible European features, doesn't automatically mean you should force them into that racial category. So I don't understand what point this guy is making. It's bizarre. Anyways, fair use.
The skin color is not important.
You and I are the same color. That's not why I'm calling you black. It's because you are phenotypically black.
No, he's not. He's not phenotypically black. What does that mean? Once again, what does phenotypically black mean? Because when you say you're phenotypically black, they're going to say, for me, phenotypically black, there is one specific phenotype. It is what this guy is down here. Something along these lines. A dark-skinned black person with a wide nose and broad features and wide lips. To me, that is what a black person, a quintessential black person looks like. That's the standard. Dark skin, 4C hair, West African, Sub-Saharan African. That to me is what a black person is. Okay? But you let these people tell you, they'll be like, oh, there's 1,000 different phenotypes for what black is. You can be white, you can be quadroon, you can be... No. Now you're just making up shit. Now you're just making up, totally recreating what blackness actually is and what blackness actually looks like to rope in all these other people. You're totally rearranging the boundaries around blackness to rope in all these other groups. You're reshuffling the lines. You're moving the goalposts. I don't know, man. We'll be having these conversations forever. But we need to expose this guy for what he is. He's a monoracist. It's just ridiculous. I don't get it. This guy and this guy don't look alike at all. They don't even look remotely alike. He has a totally different hair texture. And he looks a lot lighter. I'm really struggling to understand why this guy seems to be so fixated on making every person who's mixed or multiracial with some discernible African features just identify as black. I don't get it. And he'll even do this to the ones who look very mixed. I'm blown away.
Can be multi-ethnic background and multicultural background. No one's taking that away from you. No one's denying that, but you are only one race, and that is what you are presenting.
No. What are you talking about? How can you tell somebody they're only one race if they're 40% European and 40% African and 20% indigenous or something like that? How are you going to tell them you're only one race? Just identify as black. You are basically denying 60% of who they are to fit your agenda. Fucking ridiculous, these people. I don't understand it.
That's your phenotype. That's the way race works. When people see you, do they see a white person?
They see an African descendant.
Okay. The reason why there is no such thing as mixed race is because race is not real. It's a social construct. However, your race...
Wait, oh my God. Wait a second. So you're going to say race is a social construct, but then you're going to say race is based on phenotype and how you look. Which one is it? Is it a social construct with no clear boundaries? Or is it based on how you look? I don't get it. Because it can't be both. Because if race is predicated on a specific biological makeup, then it can't just be socially constructed. It can't just be we're going to artificially decide what the boundaries are if there's a specific biological standard. But they don't have any kind of consistent definition. They don't have any consistent concept of what actually makes somebody a part of a particular race. It's lazy. It's, this guy kind of looks like he has some African features or African descent. Okay, we'll just call him black. It's lazy thinking. Anyways.
What you are presenting phenotypically is the way you be viewed and treated.
What do you mean presenting as phenotypically? He presents as a Dominican. He presents as a mixed race individual. It's just like crazy. I don't get it.
Even regardless if you are, as you and I are multi-ethnic and cultural background. All of us in the Americas, it's safe to say, we all are multiple ethnic and cultural backgrounds. However, we could only be one presenting thing. It's what we are phenotypically. Listen, sir, as soon as he came on, I saw a black man. And I promise you, as soon as he came on, everyone in the comment section saw a black man. That's what you are, despite the...
That's because you guys are one-droppers. That's because you guys are one-droppers. I don't get it.
Fact that you are multi-ethnic and multicultural background. I would never try to say that you're not Dominican, multi-ethnic and multicultural, but you are phenotypically black. And that's what we mean when we say you're black.
No, he's not. No, he's not. I don't understand, what do you mean? There is no consistent phenotype for black. That's not a thing, according to you guys. Anybody can be black. Anybody can present as black. A quadroon can present as black. Tyreek Withers can present as black, even if they're not majority African. The word black in America is just a fake thing. It just gets thrown at people because there is no objective standard for what black is. Until you have an objective standard for what black is and what a real black phenotype is, not a super mixed phenotype is, but a specifically black phenotype is, this conversation is meaningless because there's no specific parameters, which means you can kind of just throw it around at leisure because there's no consistent footing on what is black. And it's crazy how he thinks he can speak for black people, because a lot of black people would be like, hey man, what the fuck are you talking about? This guy's not black. There's many black nationalists who would look at this guy down here and say he's not black. So this Mexican guy thinks he can speak for all black people. I find it bizarre. Who made this Mexican guy the spokesperson of the black race? I don't get it.
Stop denying it. That's what you are presenting.
You black, bro.
He's saying stop denying it. What's he denying? He's not denying anything. You guys are trying to push a racial category onto him, and he's saying, that's not my racial category. I'm something different. I'm a mixed race individual. I don't fit neatly into any of these categories, so I just go by Dominican. You guys are so desperate to lump these people into your racial category, and for what? Why? Why is that necessary? Why can't you just respect them for who they are? Would you do this to a Asian person? Would you say, hey, we're just going to push you into the white category. Hey, we're just going to push you into the Asian category. You guys never have this smoke for Asians. Ever. 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 It's only us. Y'all got to get that shit fixed. Y'all got to get that shit corrected. Because I'm not going for it. And we're not going for it. And we have no reason to go for it. And then, of course, you're going to get this dark-skinned dude say, you black, bro. You black. Nah, nigga, that's you. You're black, sir. You're black, sir. You're 85% African. Okay? So this whole, oh, you black, bro. Y'all niggas look nothing alike. This guy looks like a typical Dominican Tio. I don't understand. This is the most mind-numbing conversation I've ever listened to in my life. This is just stupid.
Black is not a race.
Hold on. Let me finish. And I knew you were going to interrupt me when I said that, but brother, you black. You said color is not important. How many of
He's saying, brother, you black. He's not black. How can you say that when he's 60%, 50% something else? It doesn't make any sense. He just said race is based on blackness is based on African ancestry. But if you're 60% or 50% not African ancestry, you're 50% something else, how can you just say, oh, this person's just black? It's because he doesn't believe that. It's a heuristic. Anybody who looks like they might have some discernible African features just gets thrown into the black category without any real thought going into it, or without any kind of keen eye observing the serious biological and phenotypical differences between Dominicans, mixed race individuals, and dark-skinned black people. Actual black people. The actual black people. The actual real black people. I don't know. This conversation is just exhausting.
Presidents of the Dominican Republic have my color. All the presidents. How many of them look like me?
In the one.
How many of the CEOs of the big companies in the Dominican Republic, they look like me with my color?
Not so much. In the U.S. too, eh?
Yes, absolutely. In the U.S., we're not denying that we're black, and we're not denying that ain't problem. But when I have Dominicans come up, y'all say, oh, their color don't matter here. Color don't matter here. But it does, because if color didn't matter, you have an equal number of presidents with my color. You have an equal number of CEOs of these big companies in my color. If color didn't matter.
I mean, that's fair enough. You know, people like him probably get discriminated against in the Dominican Republic for political positions, I would imagine. I would imagine that's probably the case. But that still is not relevant to the conversation. This is just a kind of guilt trip tactic.
Matter.
There are not so much.
Not so much what?
Black people with those
Bro.
fortunes.
Did you say there's not so many black people in Dominican Republic?
If you had to guess my nationality, what would you say it is?
Dominican.
Because of what?
Because of your look.
Because of my look, right?
Yeah.
Then let me tell you that I am Haitian. You all keep telling me the color is not important. It is important.
No.
Here in the Dominican Republic, I have a brother. He's darker than me. I go out with my brother all the time. Immigration keeps stopping him and they never stop me to ask me for documents. Tell me why. Well, what do you think about that?
You say that color doesn't matter in Dominican Republic. However, this young man, his brother, who is darker in Dominican Republic, gets stopped. Meanwhile, this young man, because he's lighter, he never gets stopped. So if color doesn't matter, what do you call that?
Because
Did you say we are racist?
Dominicans? Of course.
Elaborate.
I think that racism, colorism has been so normalized that they do not even see it as a problem. That is the reason why every time you stand up for it, they call you crazy. Por ejemplo, a mí me dicen, tú eres muy acompleja. Lo primero acomplejado son los negros. And it bothers me because 80% of the population is black.
I don't know what she means by that.
Call
I
it-
don't think that's accurate at all. And we can go through the DNA. We can. It doesn't matter. Like, you can give them all the DNA results in the world. They'll still just lump them in as black because there's like this impulse to push everybody who is mulatto into that category. I'll never understand it. They'll just perpetually deny your identity for their own political agenda. So you got to just ignore them.
A Dominican, a Haitian is the greatest insult?
Yeah.
Why?
People take the history as an excuse for the behavior. And what it bothers me is, like, when you analyze the history, it's not the history that the primary Dominican white passing man told you that we were slave for Haiti. That's not how exactly happened. They take that as an excuse to see them as the bad guy. So every time that they call you Haitian, it's
I don't really care to get into the whole Dominican versus Haitian thing. That's kind of just like that's an endless rabbit hole. I'm not really interested in getting into that. I just want to hear about why they insist on forcing Dominicans into the black category. That's what I want to hear about.
una mala palabra. Like, there is
Like, I don't really care about Haitians or Dominicans like that. It's the racial thing for me.
the worst thing that could ever happen to you in sus tiempos, en su época. Every time that a policeman here in Dominican Republic do something wrong, something illegal, and the state wanted to punish them, they sent them to the border as a punishment. Like, that is the worst thing that could ever happen to a Dominican. Go to the border with the Haitians.
So I have a Haitian friend who has a brother. This Haitian friend lives in Dominican Republic, very light-skinned. So while living in Dominican Republic, he, as a light-skinned Haitian, does not get pulled over or stopped by authorities. However, his brother, who is darker complexion, stopped in front of him. They're both brothers, but one of them is light-skinned, and the one dark-skinned gets pulled over so often.
Yeah, that's not surprising to me. That doesn't surprise me at all because these Dominicans probably think these dark-skinned Dominicans are actually Haitians. So that's probably why they pull them over so often. Doesn't justify it. But I don't really want to listen to this whole conversation. It's kind of exhausting.
Do that.
I'm Dominican, and I hear you talk about a lot of Dominican colorism and the racism that people experience. What's your nationality, by the way? You Mexican?
Mexican, yeah.
I definitely understand a lot of the things that you talk about on an everyday basis. It happens all the time, and it's true. It's 100% true in terms of everything that it is that you talk about.
My girlfriend's Dominican. She was born in the Dominican Republic, and she suffered a lot of those things over there because she has pelo malo, and so she had to iron it out to be more accepted and to be, considered beautiful. So it's like I learned a lot about Dominicans and the way that black Dominicans struggle because of what she.
Yeah, y'all Dominicans got to work on that, man. Y'all Dominicans, man, y'all got an obsession with Europeans. It's bad. Not all of y'all, let me not generalize too much, but a lot of y'all got that. A lot of y'all are brainwashed. Trust me, I've seen it many times. Many times. I'll defend you guys on the grounds of not letting people like this guy one drop you into blackness and basically denying your entire ancestry and bloodline. But y'all got to work on that whole, hey, let's kiss the ground that white people walk on shit. I can't stand it. A lot of Latin Americans have that problem. Not me, because I don't really obsess over them like that. But yeah, a lot of y'all got to work on that.
Shares with me. So me reading the comment section and seeing Dominicans, you don't know
That's why when people say, you know, a lot of these Dominicans butt kiss Anglos, I'm like, you know, I try to defend you guys, but like, yo, okay, it's kind of true. Y'all kind of do butt kiss Anglos.
shit about this. Like, well, I can't be lying if I have all these black Dominicans saying, hey, man, you're right. It seems like the white Dominicans are the ones mostly offended. So when you came on here right now, as soon as you mentioned you're Dominican, I wasn't surprised that you were friendly, that you are not offended because you're not a white Dominican.
You're 100% correct with the pelo malo and the trauma that honestly having to deal with that type of stuff that a lot of people don't really understand. The thing about Haitians and Dominicans, just going back to that whole ensemble, we are such mixed people. And this happened back in colonial times when the French inserted colorism inside of the culture. That's 100% the issue. People were treated better because they were lighter. So when you're going through slavery and you're enslaved and you see that, you know, this dark-skinned person is being treated worse, and the only reason why you're treated better is because you're lighter, it sets off a trigger almost, even subconsciously in your mind, that you are better. The mistreatment that they would do to African slaves, it does something to people. So of course people don't want to be associated with being black because it's just like, that's not me. I get treated a little bit better. I'm a little bit more Spaniard than black. What you're referring to is you are not being treated the same way as those other people, and you're being treated differently. So in that sense, of course, everybody wants.
I mean, here's my whole thing. To me, it's not rocket science. Like the whole, you start getting into colorism and all this kind of stuff. My thing is like this, right? And I won't deny that it exists, but my thing is this. It's like, look, find a way where everybody's identity and everybody's differences can be respected without denying darker skinned people or Africans or black people or whatever, Haitians, the ability to succeed and thrive in your society. That's simple. Okay, you can respect your cultural and racial differences while still not denying them the ability to thrive. To me, it's not rocket science. It's not harder than that. We don't got to go through this whole kind of like guilt campaign of trying to force people to identify a certain way and erasing their identity and maneuvering them and guilt tripping them. And we don't have to go through all that. There's ways where this can be fixed at a very basic level without having to kind of erase everybody's true identity. So, yeah, but to me, it's like the whole Dominican, the whole Haitian shit, like, they got to go figure that out by themselves because that's not my history. That's not my country, so it's kind of immaterial to me. Sucks, though.
Maybe.
You being a Dominican, from your understanding, why do you think
See, this is a black person. This is a black person. Anyways.
It is that a lot of black people in Dominican Republic claim that they're not black? From your understanding.
The reason that
because they're not. Oh, my Lord. This is a fascinating conversation.
we don't embrace our blackness and we hide from it is because we're ashamed of it and we don't want to embrace it. I was brainwashed to believe, and I was one of those fellows Dominicans that was like that. Oh, I know black, but we are black. But it's so normalized.
No, you are. You are, sir. That's you. Ain't no we, that's you. I don't know why he has to say we. Just feel good about yourself. I don't get it. Why can't you just feel good about yourself? Why can't you just feel good about being black? Why can't you just feel good about looking the way you look? I don't understand that, because if you felt that way, you wouldn't feel the need to bring all these other people who don't look like you into your racial category, because you feel bad about yourself. It's very confusing.
And we're so hurt from the past, of course, and we're so brainwashed and still traumatized that we don't want to embrace that. We've been taught that the darker you are, the eviler you are.
In your opinion, why do you think that there's denial in what you just shared? Because I agree with you, by the way. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree
You
with.
have to start from somewhere. I wasn't born knowing my information. I didn't know. They didn't teach me none of these things, I was one of those kids saying that too until I found out that, those people are my people. We're the same, you know?
Absolutely. I've had obviously a couple of Dominicans up here. A lot of them who said what you said. But then
It's
obviously
rare to find my kind.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
rarely find my kind because we're
I mean, you might be ethnically Dominican, but you are racially black.
so we're sleeping. We're not conscious. They did the same thing to us as well, to your people. We're going through this all together, but they try to divide us. We're more separated than ever. We like to glorify these flags that took over us. We're glorifying the people that took over us, We're speaking their language and embracing their flags. This is not our original descendants. They were killed and wiped out. I don't think people realize that,
I always knew that it came from a place of self-hate. I always
It's
knew that.
always self-hate. Yeah, it always starts from that.
I did have a Dominican up here, and he was a black presenting person, but his name was Taino.
The self-hate the self-hate argument is another one of those arguments that gets selectively applied, because a lot of these black and white biracials in the United States hate the fact that they're part white. Hate it, openly hate it. But that never gets casted as self-hate, ever. That gets casted as courageous or something like that. So they kind of selectively apply the whole self-hate argument. It's another one of these gaslighting tactics. I don't understand, why can't they ever just argue on the basis of the DNA? Why can't they argue biology, or why can't they argue genetics? Why does it always have to be these vague moral epithets? I just can't wrap my head around it.
On his TikTok handler. And so, check this out.
I think I saw this one. He was saying that I identify with the Tainos because the blacks gave themselves away, right? Something like that?
I see that your name is Taino. Why did he choose that to be your name? He said, because I identify with the Taino. What if your DNA said that you have predominantly African lineage and then European mixed? Would you still claim Taino, even if you aren't? And he said, well, see, that's not the point of why I identify as Taino. I identify because I identify with the Taino. And I said, how so and why so? Because they were the victims in all this mess of being colonized. And I said, wouldn't you say the same about the Africans too, that they were victims of all this? And he said, no, because unfortunately, my African ancestors were sold by other Africans, so they are to blame. It's their fault. So you see,
I mean, he's not wrong. That is a historical fact. And they did it for thousands of years. I don't, that's not even controversial.
I wonder about where this self-hate comes from. Now I see, but go ahead.
He wants to try to embrace being European as possible. They would try to hold on to that, knowing that they're black and they're nowhere near European and they don't look like that. Even though they don't even have that in their DNA or whatever, they still try to embrace a little bit, try to hold on to that a little bit as possible. Always.
Yeah, it's the same thing with indigenous people of Mexico, of Central.
See, the problem with a guy like this is he doesn't understand, because he doesn't look mixed at all. He just looks mostly black, right? The thing about a guy like this is he can't understand that certain people want to embrace the totality of who they are because it gives them a better sense of where they should locate themselves in the world. They get the full picture of who they are and what they are and where they came from and their origin story, and they can anchor themselves in it and center themselves in it and build a community based on that identity. Like I said, from the convergence of three civilizations, African, European, and indigenous. And that being the totality of who they are, gives them a better sense of self than just saying they're black or just saying they're white. He doesn't understand the nuances of it because he sees it through a black lens, an Afrocentric lens. So it only ever gets basically reduced to, oh, they just want to distance themselves from blackness. Oh, they're just anti-black, which in many cases I would say a lot of them probably are. But that also ignores the deep-seated need innately by humans to, like I said, locate themselves in the world by claiming an identity that represents exactly who they are and what they are and how they came to be. It isn't just anti-black to want those things. But for whatever reason, these people can't grasp that. And so they only fixate on the minority, or it might even be a loud minority, but they only focus and fixate on the people who fit their narrative. Oh, they're just anti-black. And then it kind of erases all the other compelling arguments as to why they don't identify as black. They can't understand that. It's just very one-sided.
In South America, we have the tendency to hold on to every bit, even if we don't even have it, but we try to desperately look for a trace of some European so that we can claim it.
Same with Dominican Republic. So
Right.
when everybody does the results, it's like, oh man, I know exact. Same with my people as well, all the time.
Yeah, but it's I don't get it. Like, it's who they are. It's what they are. It's in their bloodline. So I don't understand. Like, it's not just, oh, we're just grasping onto it for dear life. It's like it's in their blood. It's been in their blood for multiple generations. It's a massive part of their genetic composition. So I don't understand, like, what this argument is. Oh, they're just grasping at one little straw. No, it's who they are, and it's why they look like the way they look. Or it's the reason why they look the way they look. So it's not even scientifically accurate. Just because it makes you feel bad doesn't mean that what they're doing is technically wrong. But it's another one of these gaslighting guilt trip tactics that they kind of use against the Dominicans because it makes the kind of black ones feel bad about themselves. It's the truth. I'm sorry. It's the truth. I don't know what to say.
All the time. That's why I feel like we're more divided than ever, because now it was about our people and the Europeans. Now we're fighting within our people.
There was an individual, he was a Mexican guy too, and he was trying to convince me that all Mexicans have a mixture of European. And I said, how about let's prove it to each other? Let's take a DNA
That's largely true, I think, because they're mostly mestizo.
test. I had already taken it, so I already knew the results. I have 0% European, right? So I said, how about let's prove it to each other? Let's take
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
a DNA test. I showed it to him, and I said, show me your results.
Until he puts his DNA results on the internet, I will never believe that. I will never believe that.
He had 0% European. And he said this, check me out. This is important. It's important for me to say because this is always a point of argument for a lot of people. But this can't be true because we speak Spanish and we have Spanish names. And I said, I don't think you know how colonialism works. Go ahead.
Little did we know, like, this is not our heritage. This is we're learning about the people that took over us, that put us here, you know? People don't understand that. People don't see that. This is not originally our heritage, the descendants of us, you know? I don't think people realize that. That's why I say we're more divided than ever, because now we're more divided within our community.
And somebody in the comment section said Black Americans have white last names. Yeah, absolutely. So nobody tries to force African Americans, or Black Americans if you prefer, claim whiteness. Nobody tries to force black people. But I noticed that a lot of times us, whether black or brown people in Latin America, we're always forced to claim.
Yeah, see, no, he doesn't, because a lot of these black Americans, these FBA types, they are trying to distance themselves from Africa. And of course, he doesn't have anything to say about them. He'll never buck up on them. He'll never buck up on the FBA types. He'll never buck up on these Tariq Nasheed types and tell them, hey, why do you keep saying you're not just generic Africans because you have, you know, some native and some European in your bloodline? He'll never call them out for that. He'll only do it to people who are actually mixed, who actually do have a significant claim to that identity, which is a multicultural, multiracial identity that they actually have a lived experience with, a living memory of. He'll call us out in a heartbeat to kind of push us into blackness, but he won't call out the FBA types who want to claim Moors, who want to claim Indian, who want to claim mixed, who want to call themselves coppered instead of black. He'll never say anything about them because that's his audience. So once again, this guy's a fraud. He doesn't call it both ways. I've been seeing for months, years actually, how these FBAs have been trying to distance themselves from Africans. They're saying, we look nothing like y'all. We don't talk like y'all. We don't act like y'all. We don't look like y'all. We have a different swag from y'all. They're trying to do it too. But is he going to tell, hey, FBA, you need to identify as just black. You need to identify with your African. Nah, he'll never tell them that. He'll never tell them that. I'm seeing these FBAs trying to push for a new racial identity. I'm seeing it. So he'll never have anything to say about them. Only us, only the actual mixed race people. Just bizarre.
Some form of European trace. Always. And it is due to the fact that we have Spanish names and speak Spanish. I also detected the anti-blackness whenever I discovered that Dominicans find it to be an insult when they're called Haitian. And Haitian meaning black, right? So that's when I detected, okay, you know what? I see.
Okay, but like, first off, those countries have a rivalry. You have to consider that, number one. And number two, every person from Latin America is offended when you identify them as being a part of a different country. Brazilians don't like being called Peruvians. Peruvians don't like being called Bolivians. You know, Chileans don't like being called Argentinians. Mexicans don't like being called Guatemalans. I mean, this is not uncommon. So once again, this is kind of selective reasoning.
Now, I see what's going on. If in a country where 80% of the population are black, are offended because they're called Haitian, Haiti being a black country, I see the anti-blackness, because would you have been offended if you would have been called anything that relates to European presenting features? Just like in Mexico, you call us Indio, that's like spitting in our face. You know, you call us anything that has to do with.
But you guys can't project your self-hate onto us. That's the problem. Like, all you Latin Americans, not all you Latin Americans, I mean, not generalize, but people like Ricardo Ignacio, this gentleman down here, okay, who don't have any real mixture with other things. He just said he's 0% European. You can't really claim a mixed race identity or any kind of unique identity. You can't really claim that because, I mean, I guess you're monoracial or you're 80% or 90% one thing. Just because you feel bad about it and just because there's other people who feel bad about it doesn't mean you can project that onto people who aren't insecure about their racial makeup, who aren't insecure about their identity, who don't have an issue calling themselves mulattoes or whatever, and who are comfortable in that identity and have peace in that identity. I was talking to Marquette Devon Burton, the saint and the sinner, about 3 weeks ago, and he told me at the end, I hope you find peace in your identity, because he's comfortable in his blackness. And that's respectable. He's comfortable in his blackness. He's a confident, smooth black guy who maneuvers the world with grace. And he doesn't have to lump me into his category to feel good about himself. A lot of people, you'll realize, even whites, a lot of people have low racial self-esteem. Okay? And I'm guessing this guy down here does. A lot of people have low racial self-esteem. And in order to make themselves feel better, they'll tell somebody who looks more, I guess, mixed or more European than them, no, you're just one of us, because they feel bad about their own racial category. And it's very toxic. Just because you feel bad, just because you have low racial self-esteem, doesn't mean we do as well. It's okay to recognize.
Form of indigeneity. We take that as an.
It's okay to recognize the difference. Just because these Mexicans, you know, not all of them, but just because some of them have insecurities around looking indigenous so that they can identify with the dominant class, doesn't mean that they can then project that onto everybody who's mixed and identifies as just mixed. Because not all of us hate what we're mixed with, whether it's African or indigenous. Why does it always have to come back to this like low racial self-esteem thing? That's y'all, that's not us. And y'all project that onto us. I don't get it. Anyways, fair use.
So, because in a way you're calling us something inferior. But if you were to call us some kind of European something, oh, thank you.
I was one of those people too. I didn't know.
No, I don't think that's true. Maybe some would, but I wouldn't want to be identified as white or European. There was a lady who tried to say in my TikTok comment section the other day, "Oh, all of you people who are half white, half Anglo, we see you as one of us." I was like, "Lady, no, don't go that far. We're not the same." So I go both ways with it. I'm not one-sided with this shit. I go both ways with it. I'm mulatto, end of story. And I don't do any extra explaining or rationalizing. To me, it's clear cut. Anyways, fair use. Actually, I think this video, hold on. This video is going to start, what timestamp am I at? Oh yeah, this video is going on 2 hours now. So yeah, I'm going to cut it here. I basically said everything I need to say, so we'll just wrap it up. It's getting kind of repetitive anyways. Look, hold on, let me pop this back up. Look, I mean, let's just be honest. Like, we know a lot of these Latinos, these Dominicans, a lot of them do worship white people. I mean, that's just the truth. And that is not something I will ever co-sign. I want us to be who we are, our own unique people, and that's it. That's it. Doesn't have to be more complicated than that. And I think we should stand firm in that identity and embrace all of who we are and integrate all of who we are, because it's healthier that way. And we don't have to coddle monoracials who feel bad about themselves. Just because they feel bad about themselves doesn't mean we have to fold ourselves or shrink ourselves into their category so that they feel small, or I'm sorry, so that they feel bigger. I'm not interested in that. We are who we are. We're everything that we are. And we're not backing down. I have no shame about identifying as mulatto. No shame whatsoever, or mixed or biracial. I don't use those terms because those terms mean nothing. And they don't tie you to any specific ancestry or community. So I use mulatto. But anyways, people who do identify as mixed or biracial, whatever. It's not our obligation to shrink ourselves into these monoracial categories so that these people with low racial self-esteem can feel better about themselves. I'm not interested. I am who I am. We are who we are. And we want our respect. We respect you. We respect your identity. Why can't you do the same for us? And last thing I'll say is, Ricardo Ignacio is a monoracist. He's a monoracist. He wants mixed race people to force themselves into one racial category, and he wants to ignore and minimize our plight. And we simply won't go for it. So Dominicans, I'm going to keep riding for you guys. I'm going to keep standing up for you guys. I'm not going to let this guy try to punk you or disrespect you or minimize you. I'm not going for it. Anyways, if you guys like this video, please like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, and until further ado, I'm out.